All right. The Attorney General, on her first day in office, decided to stop paying for emergency contraception for sexual assault survivors. Half of those survivors receiving such contraception are children and teenagers. No matter the reason for stopping that payment, this choice is a disservice to sexual assault survivors. I prosecuted rapists and pedophiles when I was at the Attorney General's office. I worked with their victims. Across the state of Iowa, when you pick a jury for a case, you have to find out if the people in your jury pool might have a personal connection to a similar case, a similar story. Because if they do, you typically relieve them from having to serve on that jury because they might be thinking about what happened to them or their loved ones instead of focusing on the facts in the case. If you're prosecuting a theft case, you might have one or two people who have had somebody steal money from them. If you're prosecuting a burglary, you might have someone, again, one or two people who's had their home broken into. And so you say to them, look, I'm sure you can do a good job of serving fairly on a jury, but maybe this isn't the one for you because you're going to be thinking about your personal experience rather than focusing on the facts. In case after case across the state of Iowa, no matter what county you're going to, you can have so many people with a personal connection to sexual assault that you are left wondering if you are going to need to call more people to the jury room as potential jurors in order to pick your jury. You can have so many people who say, I was assaulted, or my spouse was assaulted, or my daughter or my son was assaulted, that you hit the point where you're just not sure you're going to be able to get a jury. You're going to have to call and start over again with a bigger pool. That is the magnitude of this problem in the state of Iowa. And the trauma and the pain that the Attorney General's decision is putting victims through, in this case, literally makes my skin crawl. Today, though, we're talking about this as the state auditor's office. And being the state Attorney General's auditor, her consistent use of the word audit has led to questions. So let's be abundantly clear here. The Attorney General has never asked us to audit payments for sexual assault survivors for emergency contraception. We are not performing any such audit, and there is no third party performing any such audit. There is no audit going on here. There might be an internal review, but again, this is a decision day one in the Attorney General's office. Let's point out a couple of other things too that I think are worth mentioning. It's worth pointing out that you don't stop doing something without suspecting massive fraud just while you're getting an audit or a review done, right? Every city, every county, every school district in the entire state of Iowa gets an audit every year. None of them have ever suspended business while waiting for their audit to get completed. This is a policy decision the Attorney General made, and this sort of word choice is simply a way to help her avoid accountability for her own decision. It's also worth pointing out that the money that is used to pay for emergency contraception doesn't come from taxpayers. It comes from criminals, from the fines that they have to pay when convicted of a crime. So that's what it comes down to. It's very simple. The Attorney General's choice of word on this helps her avoid accountability for her decision on day one in office to quit paying for emergency contraception for sexual assault survivors. Now, in result, she has gotten news coverage that makes it sound like this isn't her doing because she keeps using that word audit, right? Here's one example. Iowa's Attorney General Brenna Bird has refused to pay for rape victims' emergency contraception and abortions for over a year while waiting for an audit of the program. But the office has a completed draft of the audit, public records show. Again, what is she waiting for? Something internal at best, if anything. Here's another example. Will Iowa pay for rape victims' emergency contraceptions? AG's audit not ready for release. This kind of coverage makes it sound, number one, like there's an audit going on, but number two, like the Attorney General is just sort of waiting for someone else to do something. That is not the situation here. It sounds so innocuous. That's hogwash. This is her decision on day one to quit paying for emergency contraception for sexual assault survivors. And the word salad around that decision and around what is going on is nothing more than a way to reduce the clarity of that fact. Happy to take any questions. I have discussed that briefly, yes. Initially, a year ago, I just assumed that that was a one-time word choice, but now here we are into a second year of claiming that there's some audit going on. And at a certain point, we get enough questions that we need to clarify that that's not the case. Any questions? More than a few. Is there anything, you mentioned you don't approve of policy, is there anything your office does have oversight of, or would have, let me put it this way. When we conduct audits, we put our attention to areas that have been highlighted for us as problem areas or areas that we believe are high risk. Paying for emergency contraception is not either on either of those lists. No, because we don't look at it at high risk for misspending money, and there's been no suggestion whatsoever that there was anything inappropriate going on in the decades that Attorney General Miller was providing reimbursements for sexual assault survivors' use of emergency contraception. It's just something that they do as a part of their job. The amount of money involved is tiny, right, compared to a lot of different areas, and so it's not high risk. And it's not complicated, and there's been no one who suggested there's been any misuse of any money whatsoever. And so we wouldn't look at it because, typically speaking, with the resources that we have, the things that we are looking at are things where people have said to us, hey, we think there might be money getting misspent here. Hey, we're wondering about the legality of the spending of this money, that sort of thing. Has the AG's office provided any information or details as to what its internal or what it encompasses? No. You know, I can understand it happening once in sort of a colloquial sense, but this has been going on for more than a year. And at this point, to me, it's abundantly clear that whatever is going on over there is, to me, politics. It's trying to set something up to get this kind of news coverage right here, right, that makes it look like, oh, we're just waiting for that audit, when there is no audit happening, right? And if they did an internal review, that would have been done, I'm sure, quite a while ago. Calling it a draft is a different issue. Not to mention the fact that it was, what, 5 months to respond to the registrar's request? I mean, the legal standard is 20 days. And everybody who ever makes a public records request to this office gets a response within 20 days. Policy itself. Policy. You're not suggesting that she doesn't have the ability to. I'm not correct. Right. This is a discretionary decision on her part. Right? But it was brought on, this is day one. That's just her deciding not to do it anymore, to not reimburse sexual assault survivors. I want to also say, for the people who do this work day in, day out, for the people who work in victim services, for the people who work in, who are medical providers, for the people who see sexual assault survivors every single day, it is unfair that you are being put in this position. It is unfair that this is being put on your back, and that I believe that the people of Iowa support the work that you do and want to contribute to it.